everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So, today we are looking at a very interesting topic that we have not yet talked about on this channel before. And I think we talked a little bit about women, but we're going to talk about men this time. And I've already explained that there's a huge gender gap in this election. Okay, a huge gender gap. And this gender gap is going to determine which way this country is going to go. Okay, so it's either we're seeing more women going for Kamala Harris and more men going for Donald Trump. Now, why is this? Well, it never used to be this way when Biden was in office. You got two men in office, and really, I think with Joe Biden being in office, we have the youth vote not so mobilized. Now we have the youth, young Gen Z, millennial vote. They are mobilized and they are ready to vote. Why is this? Now, part of the reason is Kamala Harris happens to be a female woman of color, and that she feels a lot of people feel representative. When I say a lot of people, a lot of women feel represented because of her. Well, here's the funny thing. I find that to be very stupid. I mean, this woman has been the vice president for 4 years. If you guys are so fascinated over Kamala Harris, you would be fascinated about her and fanning over her for 4 years. For 4 years. And just now, her 4-year vice presidential term is almost over in almost less than a year. And you're just fawning over her right now. That's pathetic. And that's the reason why. Because the media has these people in the bag. The left and the Democrat Party has these people in the bag. They are plain stupid idiots that do not know that they're being mind controlled. The left and the Democrat Party, they say jump, and these leftist liberals will go and ask how high. Jump how high, without no idea that they're being controlled. But the thing is, everyday normal people, you can tell the difference between everyday normal people and insane liberals, okay? The media tries to create this Donald Trump threat to democracy. Americans don't buy it. But when it comes to these idiot clowns that fawn over Kamala Harris, over the reasons why the media wants to fawn over her, they're panicking over Donald Trump because the liberal media tells them to panic. And they're saying how much, okay? The liberal media says, panic. The young liberal, woke feminist woman or woke crowd goes and says, how much? Because how much do we need to panic to make a huge scene, to make it to the moderates and everyday American people that this is a threat? Because the woke Democrat NPCs, the media, and the establishment are on the same side. They have the same agenda, and that is to get Donald Trump, to defeat Donald Trump. Not just defeat Donald Trump, but to obtain the power of the Democrat Party. Okay? So how does this have to correlate with men? Well, we talked a lot about the beginning of the 2020 race when it came to Joe Biden and, as you know, Donald Trump. No one was fawning over Joe Biden. Nothing special about Joe Biden other than he has a woman, which no one cared about at the time, but no one cared about Joe Biden. And they like that he has a woman VP, but history was already made 4 years ago. There's no real reason to vote for her again. Oh, unless we get rid of Joe Biden and replace him with that woman, so we can make the first woman president. Now, progressives, especially feminists, have been fawning over this. The first female president. Does it really matter? No. You can get the first female everything. But for some silly reason, they want the first female president. Well, it's a big rank. It's a big special rank. But They want it so bad. So that's why we see the momentum for the female version for the Kamala Harris campaign. But what about men? Well, if Kamala Harris campaigned the right way, like every normal candidate, she would be doing well with men. But unfortunately, she's not. She's campaigning in this feminist-like style. You see, the difference between Hillary Clinton and her campaign? Hillary Clinton didn't campaign in made this big feminist campaign, okay? We know she didn't make this huge feminist campaign because she reached auto workers, she reached labor unions, she even got some farmers, she even got some folks from Arkansas that originally knew her as the first lady of that said state. Okay, they appealed to her. People knew her. She was a senator. Not only that, but she ran for president in 2008. She lost mildly, but almost won in the Democrat primaries. People knew who Hillary Clinton was. So much that all people of all genders could relate to her, or all backgrounds. When you hear about Kamala Harris, a lot of opinions start to form. But when you hear Kamala Harris, you're mainly going to say you're going to hear good stuff from mainly females because they relate to her. Who's Kamala Harris? Who's Kamala? What does she do? Like, what? And because unlike Hillary Clinton had a background that everyone knew about. Kamala Harris was in the closet for so long. So long. And now it's time for her to come out. People are like, okay, who's Kamala Harris? Women just don't care. They want the first woman such and such. So they're going to go and vote in droves to support Kamala Harris. And to make it even better, you have Taylor Swift coming out. You got these woman country singers, more woman idols that appeal to more broader Gen Z women coming out and endorsing her. Do you think that's going to get men endorsing her? No, and without anything, it's going to gaslight to men saying, hey, you know what? This Kamala Harris seems to be only for women, okay? This Kamala Harris seems to only fight for women. And Kamala Harris, of course, is not trying to say that, but that's what her campaign's becoming, a woman-supported movement, a woman-fueled movement, okay? So a lot of men say, okay, some men don't like Donald Trump, but are they comfortable about voting for Kamala Harris? It's become so much where a lot of men are being bullied for liking Kamala Harris. They're being called out as gay or trans or feminine. This is a huge problem for the Harris campaign. And more and more, as the trend, as we're seeing in more male groups coming out and denouncing Kamala Harris everywhere, and I mean everywhere, just to prove their manliness, so that they don't want to be made fun of. This is increasing Trump's votes with men. Now, men aren't going to go doing jumping jacks with Trump. They're just doing jumping jacks against Kamala Harris. But can Trump win these voters? Well, I think he definitely can. And whether these voters can go and vote for Trump, I think Trump needs to reach out to these voters. Just because they're against Kamala Harris doesn't mean they're going for Trump. That's what a lot of people think. And I'm trying to remind you, it's not that simple. Sure, you have very little choices in 2024. I get it. But who are you going to vote for? That's the deal. So when it comes to young college-age millennials, let's see what Cook Political Report has to say. So we're looking at white college-age graduates. And you'll see Kamala Harris won that group 54%. Not, what am I saying? Kamala Harris. Joe Biden won 54%. Now, polls have come out and said that Kamala Harris is going to win that group by 15 points. And if that is correct, Kamala Harris would win the group by 63%. That's a little ridiculous. If this poll is correct, this would help Kamala Harris flip Texas. Not only Texas, but also Florida. Yeah, she picks up Texas by 0.4. But she also flips Florida. She also almost flips Ohio. South Carolina's on the line. Iowa is on the line. Let's see what's else. Alaska's on the line. And you'll see states like Arizona, Nevada, Georgia's up high for Democrats. North Carolina. This is a Democrat landslide scenario. And this is only if the college graduate comes out and votes. And of course, this is pretty much Kamala's dream scenario. But I can tell you already, it's not going to look like this. For one thing, part of the reason why, in order to reach 63%, you need a lot of support from males. And Kamala Harris has no support from males. Only the ones that hate Trump so much, like Harry Sisson, that they'll go up and do jumping jacks for Kamala Harris. Seriously, you are ruining your life. How can you guys sit here and call yourself a man? Call yourself a man and vote for Kamala Harris. That's like being caught carrying Barbie dolls in your backpack. A nice, good-looking guy found with Barbie dolls in your backpack. That's how hideous it is. Hideous. It's laughable. It's gullible. It's weak. Honestly, I don't know what's more embarrassing. As a male, I would rather lose to Kamala Harris, supporting Trump, than vote for Kamala Harris. That's 10 times worse than actually losing. Guys, I'll tell ya, if they go and tell me, oh, Kamala Harris is going to win, well, I'm like, dude, you're a male. You are a male. And you're cheerleading for Kamala Harris? And you're saying that so openly, and it's like, come on. You don't know how I feel right now about you. If I were you, I'd be a little bit more quieter. Come on. I mean, yeah, that's why I would say at the end of the day, get your testosterone levels checked. I'm serious. You see more older men. They go out and they support Kamala. That's because their testosterone is going down. Come on. So, yes, this is the doomsday scenario. 63% for men. That's, no, as you know, 63% college students coming out for Kamala Harris. That's only if men come out in droves to support her. Is that going to happen? No, it's not. Why? Because men can't relate to Harris. Can you see a bunch of men coming out and voting for Taylor Swift? Do you guys see men carrying around Taylor Swift merchandise? Never in a million years, unless they are, of course, LGBT or something like that. But never in a gazillion years will you see a straight male of any background proudly waving their Taylor Swift merchandise. Then again, as a male, it's just weird, okay? Weird. People would be staring. This is nowhere different than Kamala Harris. Am I saying they're going to go for Trump? No. I'm not saying they're going for Trump. So they could. There'll be like logical men saying, who else am I going to go for? Jill Stein? Well, the Free Palestine. And then Jill Stein, however, is more respectable with men. The men respect her than Kamala. First off, Jill Stein has been known in the background since 2012, in her 2012 presidential run. She got more traction and attention in 2016. And now more than ever, she's more popular, thanks to the Free Palestine movement. So, of course, you're going to see, yeah, men could relate to Jill Stein, but then again, I'm not saying men have a thing against women. No. But if you're a woman and you're making your campaign too feminine, that's not a good idea. Oh, we'll pick Tim Walz! This cabin fisher guy from Mankato. I think he's from Mankato, Minnesota, in southern Minnesota. This good old cabin, happy-go-lucky cabin next-door neighbor guy. No. Tim Walz admitted in an ABC interview yesterday that he identifies as an emotional person. Are you kidding me? Men, I've explained to this. Men, calling someone emotional as a man is an insult. It's not supposed to be a compliment. Okay, it's not supposed to be a compliment. When you say, oh, to another guy, that you're being emotional, that's an insult. Okay? When you say, oh, I'm being emotional, I'm just emotional, you're insulting yourself. Can we all be emotional sometimes? Absolutely. But Tim Walz just said he's an emotional person. And that every gaffe he makes about whether his drunk driving charge back in the 80s, along with the lies about the Tiananmen Square incident, along with his lies about his military record, oh, it's just all emotion because he cares about his job so much. And he's trying to make people... What the heck? Dude, come on. Regulate your emotions then. Kamala Harris cannot filter. Just at all. I'm already astonished that you picked this clown, Tim Walz. I am one of many Minnesotans that have been fooled by the Minnesota state-run media that collide with the big government of Tim Walz to make Tim Walz as a strong, likable guy. I literally thought a couple videos ago during when I announced his campaign, I'm like, you know what? A lot of us have been fooled. In fact, I was fooled. And I was like, you know what? People like Tim Walz, and I actually thought he was a moderate. I actually did thought he was a moderate, and that he was a very likable guy, and he got along with everyone. I was wrong. I was not supportive of Walz, but I thought that this was a trait of him, a Minnesota nice sort of trait. But I was wrong about Walz's character. In fact, it was because Walz was facing weak opponents. The Minnesota GOP is weak. It is absolutely weak. They don't know how to beat this weak dummy that they totally just trip over. But why they're afraid to meet him in his own lion's den. The GOP in Minnesota is so afraid to walk into the lion's den of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area that they stay out in the countryside and campaign. That's stupid. They're so cowardly. And now, out of the blue, we actually find that Walz is just totally so weak. And if we actually went in there, went to the cities, and just slammed him hard, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be here. But the Minnesota GOP is so incompetent. They're so scared. Once the GOP guy gets nominated, they're afraid to go to the lion's den. Why did we nominate you? Why did we vote for you in the primary? So interesting stuff. I bring up Tim Walz because they essentially voted, Kamala Harris essentially picked Tim Walz because he's not only just a guy, because then again, Kamala Harris needs to pick a guy because that's same reason as Hillary Clinton did, because Hillary Clinton knew that if she picked a woman, then she'd be feminizing her movement too much, where men are just going to leave. They're going to view her campaign as too feminine or too female appealing. Okay? But Kamala Harris knew that too. So she picked Tim Walz. But Tim Walz is too feminine. We Minnesotans were tricked. We actually thought that this guy was an outdoor fisherman sort of guy who lives in a cabin up north. Sort of that guy. But no. This guy came out and said he is an emotional person. It's just astonishing. And then you have Donald Trump with J.D. Vance. Totally different personality than Trump. And that's part of the reason why he chose it. Because it filters out Trump's campaign. J.D. Vance is well-spoken. He's young. He's relatable. And most importantly, he gets women. He got women. He gets more women on board because he's charming. He's charming. He charms a lot of women, especially at that debate. Like a lot of people, the leftists are coping, thinking that he lost. Really? If he lost, then Vance's approval rating wouldn't have jumped 9 points in the air. Vance is above water. Cope about it all you want. Vance is up high. And you're telling me that he lost? No, you wanted the loss, and you're mad that he didn't lose, so you're just going to say he lost. That's Cope. That's left-wing Cope on the board. But the truth was, part of the reason why he won was his well-spoken. It didn't matter what he said. In your case, in your leftist case, they'll say, oh, he lied too much. And in matter of fact, it really does depend. It's a perspective sort of deal and an opinion of whether he lied or not. You can't necessarily, it's not really a fact or a non-fact. It's up to you. But part of the reason, putting that aside, he was well-spoken. He was charming. Tim Walz was old. He was sweating. And he stuttered repeatedly. Tim Walz was supposed to get the men. Tim Walz even fixed a truck. Did an ad, a campaign ad fixing a truck, informing people about Project 2025. I'm like, okay, dude, why are you fixing a truck? And why aren't you just sitting here? Why are you fixing the truck? And just tell us to your face about Trump. Well, he's been doing that for about 4 months, almost 3 months now. Men don't care. They don't. Because this guy is an emotional clown. Okay? So much, Tim Walz, it doesn't matter what he says. So he has to do. So Tim Walz, he has to go and fix a truck. Do something that men like. Men, what do men like? A lot of men, they like hands-on, right? Men do hands-on fishing, outdoor, and in this case, a lot of men like vehicles, cars, trucks. A lot of men drive trucks. So Tim Walz decides to do this stupid ad where he fixes a truck. And while fixing this truck and trying to repair the engine, he informs people about Project 2025. Doesn't work. It doesn't, because it's play out cringe. Why do you do that? Like, we obviously know why you're trying to fix a truck, Timmy. We know what you're trying to do. You're trying to grift male voters. Trump doesn't need to take a wrench and fix a truck and talk about how bad Kamala Harris is to appeal to men voters. Because then again, his base doesn't really appeal to men like the liberal media like to say. It appeals to sane and normal people. Sane and normal people that are voting for him because of stupid, Kamala's stupid plans. Her Project 2025. That's the plan. That's the agenda that we really should be talking about. Kamala Harris's Project 2025. Getting rid of the Electoral College. Stacking the Supreme Court to a 29 majority court. Along with reinstating Roe v. Wade. I'm going to tell you it's not going to happen, but that's her plan. As eliminating separate bathrooms, which would increase rape and incest by like 90%. That's her Project 2025. Giving mass amnesty to illegal aliens, free healthcare to illegal aliens, Social Security to illegal aliens, and money, of course, money to countries that don't even need aid. That's Kamala Harris's 2025. Why aren't we talking about Kamala Harris's 2025? Project 2025. What's so controversial about Donald Trump's Project 2025? Which has been totally fabricated, by the way. Totally fabricated. And we know why it was fabricated. Because they have nothing on Trump. Where they have to make up stupid stuff about Trump in order to get votes. And it's not working. It's really not working. When they realize it's not working, they have to make a big deal about Kamala Harris. Woman, person of color, black woman, and that gets her energy up. So, really, it's not about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy. It's actually about Kamala Harris being a black woman and making history. Wow. Very interesting. You know how it goes. So before I end this very long video, we're going to take a look at age. Now, looking at age, we're specifically looking at male voters. I'm looking at 18 to 29. So this range right here is Gen Z and millennial voters. Okay? These are pretty much the most important age group in this election. Gen Z and millennial voters. Most likely Gen Z, because a lot of millennial men have voted Democrat for a couple of elections now. Gen Z men have actually this is probably their first election. This is my first election, actually. My very first election voting. And I'm a Gen Z male. And I'll tell you, as a Gen Z male, I don't relate to Kamala Harris at all. So much that I feel embarrassed associating myself with Kamala Harris. I will go out of my way to let people know that I'm not voting for her. You guys look at me and think I'm more appealing to Democrats. Ha! That's a huge insult because I ain't voting for Kamala Harris. Associating me with Kamala Harris is the biggest insult that I would ever feel. Say I'm like Donald Trump, I'd take that much better than being called associated with Kamala Harris. And I can't look at fellow leftists and think, how can you guys have some respect? You're a male. You are a male. And if you're a woman and you're voting for Kamala Harris, I have more respect for that. I have more respect for women that are voting for Kamala Harris because she's a woman. I have way more respect. Compared to men voting for Kamala Harris because it's either Trump bad or we are trying to make history for women. It's just, you're such a simp. Such a simp, it makes me cringe my head off. You're either a simp or you're so fragile, so emotional. I'm talking about an emotional man. You as you grow up as an older man or as a young man, your emotions are supposed to harden. You're supposed to cry less. Only in very difficult and hard situations. You don't cry when your feelings are hurt. But these men do. Get your I can't say the word, but testosterone levels. They need to be checked immediately. Get them checked. Because I'm serious. Taking a look at the male vote, 18 to 29 vote here. 60% of young millennials, Gen Z Americans, 60% voted for Joe Biden. Then again, much more relatable. I'm not saying because Joe Biden's a male, then again, he chose a female as a running mate. That didn't really change anything. It is because, then again, Donald Trump wasn't the most relatable candidate at the time. Not really likable and not popular at all amongst millennial and Gen Z people. So they went to Joe Biden. Now it's changed, okay? Donald Trump has actually got more respect, more traction. And it's actually Kamala Harris that doesn't really have much respect among half this demographic age group, because the women are so enthused with this woman, because then again they relate to her. They compare her to Taylor Swift and all these pop culture female attractors, right? They relate to her. But men, they don't relate to her at all. They don't necessarily relate much to Trump, but comparing the two, they relate to Trump much more than Kamala Harris. So in a situation where you got the men and women vote divided, you're possibly going to see the age group of young male voters and young female voters go down. That would drastically force it to go down like 50-50. This is like a 50-50 scenario. Let's just say, like 54 could be a realistic expectation, a realistic bar expected for young 18 to 29 voters. Let's go back and put back to age 3. 4. Okay, so 42% compared to the 37%. That is a realistic increase. Now, what changes? Well, Donald Trump wins the election. If Donald Trump gets 42% of young male voters coming in and voting, then guess what? He wins the election. 47.7. Yeah, not the popular vote though. But you'll see he picks up the states that I've been telling you guys are important, and that's the state of Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona. Okay, let's talk about other age groups. So groups 30 to 40. Now, ideally, I would expect more men. So I would expect, maybe 53%. I don't know. But it goes down because more men in the age of 30 are defecting more. They're either voting third party, or they're just voting for Trump because they ideally have no really other satisfying choice. So I would think 53% for young, or in some cases a very closer race, like 52%. I will just say 53%. I don't like to underestimate these groups that vote Democrat, because I don't want to set the bar of expectations that are so high that would be very hard to see in the general election. But yes, you'll see that increases. Michigan, though, still hanging in there for Kamala. Looking here, you'll see Trump has more of a gain amongst people in the 50s and in the late 40s. What would I think that would look like? What does that look like? Does Harris gain some? Ideally, I think Trump gains a little bit more amongst the group. Okay. So there's some like 45% for Harris, 54% for Trump. So now it's looking like the map with all the swing states going for Trump. Michigan has flipped for Trump. You're seeing Wisconsin going 3.6, Nevada 1.9, Arizona 3.9, Georgia 4.4, North Carolina 5.5. Going towards older men though. Now older, this isn't a gender map, by the way. This is more of a age group. But what about older women? Now, older women have a more chance of going for Trump than younger women. So obviously, I'm just saying, pointing that off. But yes, I'm thinking older Americans had more of a chance of voting for Biden. But now with Kamala in the race, that's kind of flipped. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably going to look like this. Okay, and this is sort of what my age expectation election sort of looks like. Okay, then you'll think, okay, then again, Gen Z woman, they don't really put a huge dent into this election than what we thought. If this projection is correct, of course, which there's a chance that it can, and I'm actually underperforming and underestimating Harris, which I think I would anyway. No surprise if I end up doing that, but yeah, Trump wins the popular vote by 1.2. This is more of a realistic expectation on election day. Donald Trump carries the swing states. But yes, this is, of course, what it's looking like right now. Donald Trump has won more polls in the swing states tonight or today. Donald Trump, I did earlier today, or I believe yesterday, which I posted the video today, I projected that Harris was supposed to win the state by 1.5. That's now at Harris 0.6. So it went down 0.9. Harris is now leading the state of Michigan by 0.3. And Harris is leading in the state of Pennsylvania by 0.6. So now Harris is leading, barely picking up these states, the Rust Belt states, counting Nevada also, by less than a point. And the chances are pretty good that we will actually flip all these 6 states by the end of November by average. And I'm really excited and pumped and hopeful that we will end up doing that. So anyway, I have this on Biden, so my bad. It's been one of those days, in case if you've been wondering. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you all in the next political episode.